Hello and a very warm welcome to all of you. My name is Tom Livock from AccessPay. Today's webinar is to discuss the AccessPay agency banking service, connecting Finseta to their bank Barclays via SWIFT. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Declan Jones, Chief Product Officer for Finseta. Dec, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey Tom, nice to be speaking to you today. As mentioned, I'm the CPO at Finseta. I've spent most of my time in the financial services space, mostly around the payments and EMI kind of area. Spent a lot of time at a number of outfits, from large incumbent banks like Lloyds Banking Group through to FX scale-ups like Alpha Group that's recently been acquired by Corpay, and most recently at Finseta. Also, Finseta is on quite an exciting journey, some of it that we're here to talk to you about today.
Oh, that's fabulous. Great. So in today's webinar, we're going to spend 30 minutes or so discussing an introduction to Finseta and the company. Where did the agency banking solution come from? Why you chose AccessPay as your partner, Dec? Why the project's been so successful? And finally, any lessons learned. If you do have any questions, please go to the chat box and we'll do our best to answer any questions as we go. If we run out of time, we'll come back to you after the webinar. The webinar is being recorded, so if you'd like to watch again or share with your colleagues, you'll receive a link via email at the end of the session. Okay, so let's get started, Dec. Would you mind first explaining who is Finseta and the background to the company, please?
Yeah, sure. So Finseta, an international payments and alternative banking provider. We specialize in servicing high net worths and corporates. And most recently, an increasing number of large institutions as well. We're HQ in London, but also have offices in Canada, Dubai, and maybe a few others in the future as well. In terms of who we are, what's our identity? We're definitely a service-led business, servicing those high net worths and corporates. Our mission is pretty much to empower them to move their money in the easiest, quickest, most efficient way for them, whether it's cross-border, cross-currency, and making sure it's in their channel of choice. From a product perspective, probably give you like three kind of main pillars of what we're trying to achieve here. First one being global expansion. So, we've got those offices in Canada and Dubai. Idea is that we want to bolster them and give them the best offering in those local jurisdictions. Scaling the business. I've been a part of businesses that are in a rapid phases of growth. And idea is to give our colleagues the tools that they need to prevent some of those growing pains from showing. Last one as well is pretty much product enablement. What's going to give us the products and services to make our existing client base happy to be with us, work with us more, but also allow us to target some of those new verticals as well.
Very exciting indeed. Okay, so where did the idea of the agency banking project come from, and why is it valuable to Finseta and your clients?
Yeah, great question. So in financial services, one thing that pretty much trumps the rest of everything out there is trust. So regardless of the way things moving, the rapid developments in technology, user experience, and things like that, trust is pretty much up there. I mean, if you're buying an item of clothing, renting out a movie, you're probably going to favor the functionality, the user experience, the value. But financial services, time after time, if there's no trust, people don't really want to engage with you for banking services. So how does that agency banking give us that trust with our clients? So probably a few reasons. So as mentioned, Barclays is our agency banking provider, a massive tier one bank, been around for since the dawn of time almost, and they also provide us with safeguarded accounts as well. So our clients' knowledge to know that that's where their funds are being safeguarded is just unparalleled level of trust when it comes to that. If you were to set up a payment to one of our clients, you will literally, this functionality will also give us things like confirmation of pay on the reverse end. So what does that look like in real terms? Someone setting up a payment and trying to pay one of our clients is actually going to return that bank account actually belongs to Finseta. Whereas previously that would come up as showing up as one of our counterparties. So, it gives us that next tier of functionality, which people would expect for someone who they're placing a large amount of funds with. And also, an exciting bit is we can generate our own bank account details. So clients will have their own Finseta IBAN account number. sort code, and our own connected BIC as well. So it's like a next evolution of us as a business, pretty much.
So the agency banking service allows you to access the banking rails without a significant investment. I guess that's the techie bit, but more importantly for you and Finseta, it's the underlying trust with your clients that you're providing the best possible service to them. So I guess to paraphrase, agency banking gives you an edge on your competitors that may only be able to service their clients through other counterparties in their banks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a product person. I work with engineers all day. I'd love to talk about the exciting the technology parts of this project that makes it that exciting. But fundamentally, clients don't care. We're safeguarded by Barclays, have my own account details. I can tell that it's Finseta I'm paying when I'm trying to top up my bank account. That for them is pretty much what they want to get out of it.
That's brilliant to understand. Thanks for taking us through that. And I guess although Finseta and AccessPay are both technology companies, it's the trust from our clients that's the most important. It's the service we offer to them, not just the service itself, but the company as a whole.
Absolutely.
So let's move on to the solution. And if we can have the solution slide and talk through what that actually looks like. Great. Okay. So looking at the left-hand side is the Finseta part of this with the AccessPay wheel sitting in the middle. And then on the far right, connecting via Swift is Barclays and those safeguarded accounts that you mentioned earlier, Dec. So would you mind just talking us through what happens in Finseta on that left-hand side before the files get outputted or received from AccessPay?
Yeah, sure. So our clients set up payments with us. They will generate who the beneficiary needs to be, how much, the currency. We've got a fair few payment channels nowadays, so clients can do a more traditional payment that we all know and love, but they can also have mass pay option as well. So they can pay hundreds of people in one go for things like payroll, paying a load of vendors in one go, those kind of things. Depending on how they configure with us, we've got quite flexible for our clients on our side. We can, that's either that's the payment executed and goes through our systems, but they can also have a tiered approval structure as well, and where they can, make sure that there's some stage gates and that extra level of comfort that someone has had a full ride and double check that payment before it goes out. That's client. They've said, yep, I want to make this payment. Quite hot and on STP, we know in the industry, but that's straight through processing. So that just means operationally our controls, our routing, our processes are quite tight, and then that pretty much goes out the door as quick as possible in the vast majority of cases. There's sometimes where you do want to stop payments, but large amount of time they go all the way through. And then that's where it goes to a layer to choose which counterparty it goes with. So we work with a number of counterparties, but through this agency banking solution, that's where the magic starts to go into the second part of that diagram. So we obviously connect to you guys. You've got a good set of connections. We do it through that secure channel, and then that's where your guys. I won't steal your thunder, Tom. That's where the magic happens on your side. So, do you want to cover the middle bit?
Sure. Yeah. So thanks. So we take those payment files that you just mentioned, those payment instructions. We take those automatically, so there's no hands-on whatsoever. The files are received automatically via that secure channel. They're pulled into our system. We go through a process. It mentions here about validating and security and control. And then ultimately we're delivering the file to Barclays via the Swift network. So that's the payment flow. But probably for Finseta, what's maybe as important, if not more important, is the messages you get back. So there is a series of messages. Statement flow is one of them. So statement data is being sent back, but we also deliver back some FX control messages as well. So it's a mix of different message types. Anything else to add to that, Dec?
Yeah, so I've covered the first outbound leg of it. So clients will send out payments, but then it's that return channel where we know that those payments have executed, and then we can tell our clients, yeah, that payment that you tried to make, that has now made its way through the Swift system and confirmed with that end bank. And also for the inbound payment side of things, that's where we're collecting those details, doing the magic on our side, matching it to clients based on those Swift messages that you pass over to us, and then we allocate that to the client as well.
That's great. Good to see how this Swift service actually works. Okay, let's move on to something that's very close to my heart, if you don't mind. So why did you choose AccessPay, and how did you arrive on AccessPay as a partner?
Yeah, sure. So, probably before I chose AccessPay, the question was probably build versus buy. So, we can either build this functionality and connect to Swift directly, or we can go out through a Swift bureau. So, the key reason why, I won't go through the full process, but why we landed on going through a bureau, obviously it's a quicker route to live. So, if I were to start from scratch, there needs to be a degree of upskilling in the business, myself pretty much as well, on how we get there. The Swift onboarding obviously would be a bit more strenuous and would take a larger degree of internal effort and just generally just time. And also, I would need to have a set of expertise who would be able to deliver it. So I need to work backwards, hire a team that could implement the project, and then all that takes time. So separate to that but linked, and it doesn't get mentioned enough, is opportunity cost. So that quicker route to live means that we can start realizing the benefit. I've talked through the trust a minute ago. We can start realizing that benefit sooner rather than later. And opportunity cost is a little bit like interest. It compounds. So we would have got the benefit from being live with Barclays earlier, but now we'll talk about how well the project went. That means that once the project finished, me and the team have been able to move on, not move on completely because we're still rolling it out, but we've been able to work on other things as well now. So if I was investing the time to build it in-house, we would be missing out on all that benefit because we're already live now. We still might be in the trenches still trying to do it.
Sure.
And we've gone live now. There's probably that's got us to live. There's also a second bit as well, which is the maintenance part. I would have to be spending a degree of my time, and I would have to have some internal capabilities as well to make sure that that's all all runs like clockwork. Which that's where we look to a bureau. But then the bit that you want to know definitely is why AccessPay. So we're quite transparent at the start. We went out to a few partners out there to see what the offering was, what the functionality was, and just being open and candid. Where we landed with you guys is the most important thing for me, and as I mentioned on the build versus buy, is the Swift expertise. You guys have done this like numerous times. We had a few intro calls. I think I peppered you the question, so apologies for that. But you held your own, so I think that was always a good sign. The functionality, the pure basic functionality, all drives down to the technology. Could be as knowledgeable as you like. The functionality still has to be there. You guys had a various suite of connection methods that we could have used. And, we know the project went up and down, sideways, it went in bloody circles sometimes, but, that gave us the flexibility to connect you how we wanted. And we did change our mind early on, which, if it was one way or the other, wouldn't have been able to do so. Sure. And as part of the solution as well, I think Swift is massively complex. It takes where, I feel like I've gone through a learning curve myself, but what you guys were able to do was extract the noise from it and then deliver it in something that's a bit more tangible. So, you extract the messages, you've got a nice UI where I can see what actually has happened with the payment, where the batches are, and like a timeline, and so I can make up a picture of what's going on. We've got a degree of that in ourselves, but you've taken a lot of that heavy lifting out for us, which has been a godsend.
Yeah, great. Thanks, and great to hear that it's not just the solution, but the team as well that have provided you with the solution in a timely manner. And the approach, as you know, around Swift and Swift projects is highly complex. You mentioned that it's the route to live and how quickly you've been able to get the service to live is one of the most important things for you. And you mentioned about build versus buy, and it's that build versus buy which obviously for you was more important for you. And it's the fact that that's your front end customer experience is where you're focusing your product time on, not the back office process, which obviously is what AccessPay is providing here. Is that your thinking around this approach?
Yeah, 100%. I mentioned that right at the top, that where from a product point of view and Finseta in general, we are a service-led business. We want to know our clients inside and out, what makes them tick, what's going to give them that extra like layer of value. For us, it's the agency banking solution that gives them that, and what happens underneath. In all honesty, I'm not massively, I don't massively care to a degree. Swift is a established product. It's massively complex. Nobody's, one player isn't going to change it overnight. I'd rather double down on what sets us apart from our competitors rather than trying to be an expert in Swift pretty much. And, there's going to be a lot of people that are a lot better at it than I am. So I'd rather, double down where the effort's best placed. And, you utilize your guys' expertise because you're a lot better than it than we are.
Thanks, Dec. That makes perfect sense. When you talk through your selection criteria, you didn't mention pricing or commercials. Would you mind just talking us through that in a bit more, please?
Yeah, I'd say it definitely was. So like I think I expressed it in terms of quicker route to live
Sure.
and maintenance. But we know quicker, like time is money in our world. So if I took 3 months longer to build it ourselves, it would have cost us 3 months more of operating costs, staff salaries, and I mentioned opportunity cost quite a lot as well. We would have lost all that benefit that we would have made. Not to say, and then so I think that was the key bit. We from a financial perspective, the buy was better than the build. So then I think the secondary is among our competitors, among the partners. Sorry. So I think we did speak to a few, and you were competitive, but again, Jack, I'm stressing it, but if we were to save a couple of grand and go for another partner, and we ended up 2 months late, then I've still got it wasn't you guys building the whole thing. We started team building our elements of it. That would have delayed us on that side. That's that 2 months equals money in sunk cost, but then again the opportunity cost from not being able to utilize the benefit pretty much.
Yeah, no, completely understand the opportunity cost and making sure that you can get to live as quickly as possible. So that leads us nicely into looking at the project itself. And from a Finseta perspective, you mentioned before that obviously the project's been successful and the reason why we're here today, but why was the project so well executed?
Yeah, so it did really go well. So at the start of the project, I must admit, you see the big, massive list of to-dos that go alongside it, and straight away it had the makings of a project that was just going to go on forever. So it did scare me a little bit, but I think where it did go well, and then why we've done so, it was delivered so quickly, is that we started the Swift onboarding part pretty early. Regardless of even if we executed everything, if we were ready to go, if that onboarding bit wasn't done, we would have been sat twiddling our thumbs for 3 months. We started it way before we even signed contracts with you, before we even had an implementation discussion. I think we signed all the Swift stuff 2-3 months before. That's probably the key kind of tangible one, which have been the most frustrating. From a pure execution point, I think it's very rare when a kind of three-way relationship goes well. So any more than two between like a project like this, it gets a bit unruly. But between us, yourselves, and the implementation team at Barclays, it was absolutely fantastic. Where I think we were straight talking, cracked a joke. It wasn't formal. We just said it how it is. I think that made it easier to enjoy it when the times are going well. But the important bit is when it hit the fan, we were just open and frank with each other. There was some very, just being open and honest. There were uncomfortable conversations, but it come from a place of respect as well, which I think, a lot of people would take it personally, but I think everybody in the room, or the virtual room, because we've not actually met each other yet, they took it for what it was, and we just wanted the project to be a success. And then you've covered it a little bit. Everybody there was, me less so. Everyone there was a Swift expert, but then I'd like to think we caught up towards the end of the project.
You definitely did.
Nice, but like that's why I think this is, as I mentioned, this is my first rodeo in Swift world. You've done this a fair few more times than me. Why do you think it went so well?
Well, firstly, let's pick up on the point that we haven't actually met in person, which we probably should address. And after this webinar, I'll go for a drink at some point. But in any case, yeah, I've been involved in many Swift projects over the last 11 years or so, and this has probably been one of the smoothest and fastest, with the service delivered probably in just over 6 months, which for a new to Swift customer, that is extremely quick. And without providing you and your colleagues, Rich, Anton, Vlad, a few others, with too many compliments and trying to keep this real for the audience, there are probably 3 main reasons why the project's been so successful. You mentioned the relationship, and I'd like to just stress that. I think it's been a very strong 3-way relationship between Finseta, Barclays, and AccessPay. And you mentioned respect all 3 ways, and the fact we've been very transparent and open. Like you say, when things weren't going quite as well as any of us wanted it, we got through those difficult hurdles because of that basis of that relationship. Second is motivation and responsiveness. You're one of the key reasons why this project has been so successful is you get in these projects and at some point it stalls, and it's something that's out of your hand, it's out of your control, but it stalls, and it's a roadblock, and you're trying to get through that issue. And in your case, Dec, you managed, and the guys you're working with, your colleagues, we managed to get through those questions very quickly and unstall the project and get it moving again. And finally is probably the knowledge and understanding in Finseta. You mentioned this is the first Swift project that you've been involved in, but it was your knowledge and understanding of what you need to do inside Finseta to make this project work. And that's the reason why I think that it's been such a successful and fast project in implementing the service. So I think we're nearly out of time. But before we finish, I've just got one question I was going to ask you, Dec, if that's okay. It's just come from the audience, and it's asking about the roadmap. So somebody is interested in understanding what the roadmap looks like for Finseta now that we're through this project. What does the next stages, what the next phases look like for the service?
Yeah, definitely. It's been handy that we finished ahead of schedule, because we've been able to get started on that roadmap a bit sooner. But yeah, I mentioned the 3 pillars of our kind of product strategy. So global expansion, just to recap, scaling the business, and the product enablement. If absolutely everything that's on that roadmap is going to turn the dial on one of those. If not, we're not interested. Can't give too much away, but we are very recently open in Dubai and Canada. There's a lot of effort being placed to make sure that we've got a compelling offering out there. Some of our offerings are going to be quite unique, going to set us apart from some of our competitors. So a lot more to come on that front. And if you're a client listening, there's a host of features and improvements coming to make. We mentioned our key kind of targets to make payment processing as quick and easy as possible. There's a lot coming out in that space, and you never know, even more payment gateways in the near future, hopefully.
Great, all very exciting. We look forward to it. So I'm sorry, but I'm afraid we're out of time. Dec, I'd like to thank you for sharing your experience of building a Swift agency banking solution.
Thank you, Tom. No, appreciate it. Thank you for all your help in the team as well.
And thank you to all of you for joining the webinar and listening. We look forward to seeing you all again very soon. Thank you and goodbye.